talk about UFC Fight Night. Just literally just happened last night. Munhoz against Frankie Edgar. Right, so I watched the night. It was a pretty good night of fights. Well, first and foremost, real shame that the co-main event got scratched. Obviously, over St. Preux tested positive for the coronavirus. Wish him a speedy recovery. I really hope that once he recovers, they put that fight, the original co-main event, which was supposed to be over St. Preux against Alonzo Menafield. That was going to be an entertaining fight, I think. I mean, like I said, go back and watch my breakdown of what I was going to bet on that fight and why it was such an intriguing matchup. Look at the state of Alonzo Menafield. Like, ridiculous. Anyway, speedy recovery to over at St. Preux. Hopefully we'll see that scrap in a couple of weeks. But even without that co-main event, this ended up being a pretty good night of fights. I'm going to start with it was the first fight on the main card. Now, it was D-Rod, Mr. Rodriguez against Grant. Basically, they were both supposed to have different opponents. If you haven't watched that fight, right, pause it here. And we're back. So now you've watched the fight, because honestly, brilliant fight. You've got to watch it. It was so back and forth. For a start, I mean, Rodriguez, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for him because he looks to me. Let's just bring a picture up here. Okay, right. Hopefully, I've got a picture of him there. But look at his tattoos. He looks like the villain in like a mixed martial arts movie, doesn't he? Like, do you know what I mean? He's got like the cage all like tattooed there. His birthday. I presume that's his date of birth. I mean, I hope so. Otherwise, I mean, I should probably look that up, see exactly. But either way, he looks like a kind of a thuggish, horrible cage fighter. And you know what? He probably fits the bill as well. I mean, he looked great. I mean, because Grant really smashed him from the start. Like, from the start, Grant looked amazing. And he just couldn't quite put him away. Fair play to Rodriguez. Every time the referee asked him to start fighting back and start improving his position, he did just that. He started just kind of like covering up, and he would just improve his position until eventually, like, he got back to his feet and then answered with these like left hands, right? That were really weird. Like, they're weird, short, little left hands, almost Carwin-esque, you know. That was the former great heavyweight Shane Carwin. What I mean is the shots were nice and short. They're short, little shots, and yeah, just tagged him. And wow, I mean, and to be fair, I mean, because I think these guys were 170. I'm pretty sure they were 170. To be honest, I didn't research them all that much beforehand because obviously they were supposed to be fighting different people, and I hadn't really seen that much of them anyway. But Rodriguez and Grant as well. Grant looked really good. I mean, if those two didn't get fight of the night, I'd be very, very surprised. But Rodriguez is now apparently on a 9-fight win streak. And yeah, that's crazy. Sure, and he's not even ranked. He's not even ranked. I'm sure he's probably ranked now. He must be. Hopefully, he's got a name next to his a number next to his name. Rather, sorry, I'm all tongues. But yeah, that was an excellent fight. If you're going to go back and watch any of the fights on that card, go back and watch the first fight of the main card. You won't be sorry. Be looking out for Mr. D-Rod Rodriguez in the future because yeah, man, he looked great. He looked great. Looking forward to seeing more of him. So, also, just wanted to say that, I mean, fucking hell, the schedule for kind of the rest of August and September for the UFC is absolutely insane. We are so lucky to be MMA fans right now. We really are. I mean, look at it, right? 29th of August, you've got Anthony Smith against Rakic. Rakic is that guy who beat Drew Manawa, but he lost a close split decision to Volkan Oezdemir, which was... I thought he still looked good in that fight. I don't see him beating Anthony Smith, but either way, I'll go into that in more detail later. And you've got Mr. Overeem returning to the octagon once again to take on Sakai. Now Sakai, he's been highly touted, and Overeem, we all know who Alistair Overeem is. Hell of a main event. Then you've got Thiago Santos taking on Glover Teixeira on the 12th of September. Then you've got Covington versus Woodley just announced for the 19th of September. That's a grudge match that's been brewing for years. Can't wait for that. Then you've got Israel Adesanya against Costa on the 26th of September, co-main event for that one is the vacant light heavyweight title fight between Reyes and Blachowicz. What? Jesus! That's crazy! What a crazy schedule. I mean, Matt, it is good to be a fight fan right now. Really good to be a fight fan. And yeah, moving back onto last night's card. Agapave versus Dobson. Dobson coming in as the big underdog. And yeah, it was a good back and forth. It was a good scrap. The two, it was the flyweight women's, I think. So yeah, it was a good back and forth battle. She kind of weathered the storm in the first round and then came back and just smashed it. Did a really good job. My only problem with that division is why I don't pay that close attention. My main problem with that division is who beats Shevchenko. Like who realistically is beating Shevchenko? I don't see it. I just don't see anybody that's going to be challenging her. So which is. I mean, it's a great problem to have, if you're that dominant, I guess, but I feel like it damages the division slightly because it's like, well, nobody's paying attention to the other fights because they're like, well, who's going to beat her? No one. But either way, great performance from Dobson. Look forward to seeing her again. Should be good fun. So, yeah, then we've got Marcini pre-show versus Mike Rodriguez. I mean, Rodriguez is just big. He's just a big dude. He went in there and everything about him was big, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? Big clinch, big elbows, big knees, big knockout. Lovely stuff. Like, I mean, I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for him just in the future. It wasn't kind of uninspired, but it was just short work. It was like fair play to him. You know, they don't get paid by the hour, do they? So yeah, Rodriguez, just keep an eye on that guy. Keep an eye on him. So, the main event. Now, the main event, obviously, if you go back to my video previewing this, obviously I did have Frankie Edgar. I did have a bet on him also. Well, but because it worked out quite well because the co-main event fell out. I had a couple of doubles on. Like one double I had was Edgar by decision and OSP by submission. I also had Edgar straight up to win. And yeah, so obviously the co-main event fell out. I won't ruin the result of this main event just yet. So you've got an opportunity to pause it right now if you haven't watched the main event. Yeah, cool, got you. So basically, yeah, my bet came off just lovely because Frankie Edgar won a decision. Now this was a really good fight. I mean, thing is, it wasn't like. Here's the thing. Online, I've been looking at since the fight has finished, like in all like the forums, things like that. I'm seeing one word being thrown around constantly. That word is robbery, right? And I've got to be honest. If you think that Pedro Munhoz was robbed last night, I think you're fucking dreaming. I really do. I go back and watch the fight again. Maybe I should watch it, but either way, I mean, I did have money on Edgar, so maybe I was a little bit biased, but. I was surprised it was a split decision. I was surprised that it went that close because I didn't think the fight was actually that close. Now I know what you all think. You're all screaming at me right now, just saying you're fucking mental. The fight was as close as you can get. It's like, look, okay, yeah, it was a relatively close fight, but I would ask, which rounds can you definitively score to Munhoz? Because I couldn't see any. I couldn't score any rounds definitively to Munhoz, but the rounds 2 to 4, I had those definitively for Frankie Edgar, right? And here's why. Because also round 1, you've got to remember, Frankie Edgar finished that round very strong. Edgar was constantly in perpetual motion, constantly moving around the outside. Yeah, he ate a lot of leg kicks, but other than that, Munhoz's offense wasn't that effective because he was eating 3 shots and returning with 1. Now, his 1 had more power on it than Frankie's, but it's still only 1. And if you don't get the knockout, then that power's fucking irrelevant, right? Because they're all significant strikes. Frankie Edgar's landing 3 significant strikes, and Munhoz returns with 1. And yeah, there's more power on that one, but Frankie Edgar ate them all with no problem. He didn't wobble, he didn't show. The only things that wobbled him were that leg kick, but he made an adjustment in round 3 where it stopped Munhoz from throwing that leg kick so often because he literally caught the kick and took him down. So then Munhoz was hesitating on that leg kick as well. And I've got to be honest, other than the round 1 was close, but I thought Edgar finished strong, so that leaves an impression on the judges. And the last round I thought was close. The ones in between, the three in between, I thought Edgar won them fairly convincingly because he mixed in the takedowns. He didn't get that many of them, but I think he got like one in round 2, one in round 3. But it was enough. And as I mentioned, right, when you've got to bear in mind that the judges, they do not have the strike metrics. So I don't see the point in even showing those on the screen, right? Because it kind of skews people into thinking that rounds are close or one fighter's winning or whatever, right? But you've got to look. Bear in mind, right, okay, so when you're looking to kind of score a fight yourself, right, pay no attention to like the fight metrics that are being brought up. The judges don't have those, so it's fucking irrelevant. You just need to look at how the fight looks, right? And I thought that the fight looked, I thought that throughout the entire fight, Edgar looked busier. He just looked busier, and it was classic Edgar as well. He was sneaking in the uppercut. Do you know, he kept on kind of coming over, do you know, jab, uppercut, do you know, and then he's going over the top with the right. But then when he's faking with the over the top to the right, do you know, he's Munhoz is ducking down to try and get out of the way of it, and he switched to the uppercut again. And it was brilliant. It was a great performance for Frankie Edgar. He did not look 38 in there. Frankie Edgar looked absolutely fantastic, and I'm so looking forward to seeing who they put him up against next. I hope Sandhagen, maybe that could be a decent matchup for Frankie, because it needs to be somebody high up in the rankings now. I think Sandhagen just came off that loss to Sterling, so I think that would be a good matchup. I think they are discussing having Edgar against Cruz. That would be fun. I would watch the hell out of that. I'd watch the hell out of that. I think I'd favour Edgar in that one. I really do. Edgar looked sharp, and the thing that I like about 135 for Edgar is he didn't look undersized. He didn't look outmatched size wise. Whenever he was fighting at 155, obviously when he won the belt at 155, there were no bantamweight divisions or featherweights or whatever. So that was his only option. He had to fight at 155 and fight these big lumps. You know what I mean? He constantly looked like the smaller guy. At 135, they looked the same size, and he looks in great shape. He looked excellent. And he was just busier, right? Throughout the fight, basically, like Munhoz was landing one, but he was having to take three. Like it was the combinations that won it for Frankie Edgar. And the only thing that surprised me was that it went to a split decision, because I didn't think it was even that close. I thought it would be a unanimous decision for Frankie Edgar, and like a lot of the people that are crying saying that it was robbery, I don't understand what fight. Okay, I do get that maybe some of you misunderstand how the fights are scored, right? Because a lot of people were saying, but okay, Munhoz was advancing the entire time, which he was. That's fair, right? Munhoz was the aggressor, but you know, Frankie Edgar was the matador. He was going around, and he was just like, he was busier. You know, when you were watching the fight, it looked like you could see clearly that Munhoz was not landing or being as active like in the strikes as Edgar was, right? And you've got to bear in mind that octagon control, that's a tertiary like category for scoring, right? It only comes into effect once if there is no clear winner in the wrestling and in the striking. And I thought that, you know, like I said, even without the fight metrics, I think the fight metrics even went in Edgar's favour. But you ignore those just on the aesthetic, right? The aesthetic. When I was watching that fight, just watching it, Edgar looked busier. Edgar looked like he was landing more, and that is why the fight. That's why the rounds were scored to Edgar. And again, I am shocked that it was a split decision. When they said it was, judges such and such scored it, I was like, what? Are you mental? You know what I mean? Like I said, I saw 3 rounds that you could clearly score to Edgar, but I didn't see 1 round you could clearly score to Munhoz. You know what I mean? No disrespect to Munhoz, he fought a hell of a fight, but he was kind of banking on the knockout, I thought, because he was just, like I said, he was eating 3 to throw 1, and that 1 had a lot of sting on it. But he's eaten 3. That's 3 strikes to 1. So overall, if you end up not knocking the guy out and it goes to a judge's decision, then that's it, isn't it? That's it. You're done. Do you know what I mean? And fair play to Frankie Edgar. Really love to see it. And glad to see him back. Like I said, I'm hoping that they match him up against Cruz or even Sandler. But Cruz would be the bigger marquee fight, I feel. And they're both kind of near that end of their careers. But I would love to see Frankie Edgar take a run at that 135 pound title. I really do. I'm call me a sentimental old fool, But I like Frankie Edgar. I'd love to see him just get the belt in that division, then call it a day. It'd be wonderful. But yeah, other than that, you've got. I was thinking, because obviously, the big news at the moment is that Jon Jones has vacated the light heavyweight title and he is looking to go up to heavyweight. Now, the more I think about, the more I've seen these light heavyweights going up to heavyweight, the more I feel like this is maybe a bad idea for Jones. I'm trying to look at heavyweights that he matches up well against, and I'm not sure I see that many. Because you've got to bear in mind, right? Obviously, even over St. Preux, he went up to heavyweight, and they matched him up against Ben Rothwell, which is fair. That's a decent starting point if you want to test out the heavyweight division. Whether you like his style or not, Ben Rothwell did win that fight. He did what he had to do, and he won that fight. And over St. Preux couldn't really deal with the size of Ben Rothwell. Now, Ben Rothwell, with respect to him, he's not one of the top tier heavyweights, and Jon Jones is not going to get like a tester fight. This is why it's kind of a double-edged sword, him being so good, because he's not going to get a gimme fight. He's not going to get a feeler. Do you know what I mean? He's going to get put straight in there against a heavyweight killer. And you're looking at guys like Curtis Blades, right? Look at the size of Curtis Blades. He is a legit heavyweight. And the problem is, right, as much as people keep talking about, Jon Jones was deadlifting like 400 pounds, whatever, when he bulked up whilst he was off for that, I don't know, either the first time he got banned or the second, one of the times he started powerlifting all the time. And people started saying how big he looked. I was like, he looks big for a light heavyweight, but he doesn't look heavyweight big. He's just not got that size. It's like when you looked at Gustafsson squaring off against Fabricio Verdum. The difference was there. The difference was key. It was in the neck and in the head, like in just the bigness, the thickness. Like you could tell that Verdum was a legitimate heavyweight, and that Gustafsson was just coming up because he didn't feel like he had challenge, whatever. He just wanted to try something new, and it didn't work out well for him. And the more I look at matchups for Jon Jones at heavyweight, the more I think there aren't many good matchups for him at heavyweight. I think Stipe kills him. I do. I really, really do. Stipe's a big lump, and he's not like... You saw how slimmed down Stipe looked for the Cormier fight. That is the smallest that Stipe can get. That is the absolute smallest that Stipe can get. I don't think Jones has necessarily got the frame for heavyweight, and I don't think that his skill is going to necessarily help him against these bigger guys. Look at Curtis Blades, right? Curtis Blades is a big old, and I mentioned that name because realistically that could be a fight that they put together for Jon Jones, because Curtis Blades isn't the champion, but he is a top tier heavyweight, and if Jones wants to prove himself a heavyweight, then they need to put him against a top tier heavyweight. Curtis Blades is that, and he's so big, man. He's a huge guy, and his wrestling is just ridiculous. I think that Jones has real problems against Curtis Blades, and then the party's over before it started. So I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, because I think Jon Jones has made his mind up, and he is now heading to heavyweight. But I want to just say it here first that I don't think that that's a good idea. And whoever Jon Jones fights at heavyweight, I am betting against Jon Jones, because I just don't think that he has the size to match those guys at heavyweight. You've got the heavyweight division is not as weak as it used to be. It's got some real killers up there. And Jones needs to be careful, needs to watch his P's and Q's. But it's going to be exciting to see no matter what happens. But it was a fun night of fights, and I'm looking forward to next week. You've got Anthony Smith against Rakic, and I'll be doing some previews of that, because I think Anthony Smith, with respect, is probably likely to win that one. But if you enjoy these videos, please comment. Please let me know if you think I'm crazy that Frankie Edgar won that fight. Please tell me how you feel that was a robbery. That Edgar should be ashamed, and there should be an inquiry. Let me know. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Appreciate it. And like I said, until next time, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.